In this podcast, we chat about the draw against West Bromwich Albion, Tavernier's move to Bournemouth, look ahead to QPR with the Up the R's podcast, and answer your podcast questions. This is the Boro Breakdown podcast, and this is our Boro Matchday Chatter in a pod.
Wants support. Curtis Fleming is down the edge of the area. Fleming for Craig Hignett. Hit it, Higgy. Higgy hits the treble!
Tavernier coming alive again. Janino wants the ball played to him. Tavernier spots out Emerson!
Hello and welcome to the Boro Breakdown podcast with Johnny, Dana and Tom. We are the Boro podcast that gives you all of your Boro Matchday Chatter in a podcast. And a goal from Isaiah Jones and an equaliser from John Swift gave Boro and West Brom a point apiece at the Riverside Stadium on the opening day. Guys, as always, I want to get your initial thoughts and feelings. Dana, how are you feeling in 3 words?
I'm going to say not too bad, because I think that perfectly encapsulates how I was feeling after the game yesterday. It was a mixed game. First half was good. Second half probably showed the shortcomings of this squad. I did say after the game it was a makeshift squad, so to be honest, it was to be expected that we'd have a few notable areas of improvement. But all in all, it's not that bad of a start, and hopefully this is just something that we can build on now.
Tom?
My 3 words are need some strikers. I think we could have had it wrapped up in the first half. It could have been about 2 or 3-0 by half time. And if it was, I don't think West Brom were coming back from its second half, even if they did play like they did. I agree with what Dan said there. I think second half did show the shortcomings of the squad. I think we struggled a bit with the physicality of some of their players. I think Ajayi was really good in defence for West Brom, and then when DK came on, he's just bullying Lenihan a lot of the time. So, I'm happy with the point in the end. But had we had some strikers on the pitch first half, like Watmore's chance, I think that would get finished by like a Marcus Force, for example.
Not very keen on Duncan Watmore at the moment, but I'm going to go with a building block. I think it was a good opening day performance. First half, thought we were really, really good, really strong. And second half, we seemed to tire a little bit. And it was clear that we are in the need for strikers. I thought when Akpom and Watmore tired after about 50, 60 minutes, it was clear that that West Brom were going to get more into the game. The press wasn't as strong. They got more of a foothold in the game, and they really built it. And they really built up over time. And I agree with you as well, Tom. I thought if we had a better striker in those positions at times, we probably would have been 2 or 3 up before half time. But it's a shame that we've missed, and we're going to talk about a point. But all in all, I thought Chuba played quite well, but we'll go on to that a little bit later on. But let's chat about the game in more depth then, because we were backed by 26,000 fans of the Riverside. Boro boss Chris Wilder handed competitive debuts to Lenihan, Ryan Giles and Zach Steffen, but it was Chuba Akpom, of all players, that was a surprise name on the team sheet after being the called all pre-season, apart from the game against Marseille. And it was Chuba that made a really big impact throughout the game as well, with his assist for Isaiah Jones, putting Boro ahead, but then John Swift's equaliser gave both teams a point. Dana, overall assessment, how are you feeling about the game against West Bromwich Albion?
Yeah, as I alluded to at the top, I think the first half was good, and it did feel like we were going to add to the lead, and obviously we did. It was flagged offside. And then, obviously, what you just said there, the miss, it's so typical of Watmore, isn't it, unfortunately? He can absolutely ping one on the edge of the box against Sheffield United, but he can't convert against, the Stoke chance as well. Very similar to that. It's like when he's faced with a shot right in the face of goal, he misses it, unfortunately. But yeah, the first half, I thought West Brom were very passive, particularly out wide, much like the game last season. I thought those wide areas were proving quite problematic for them and quite prosperous for us. But then in the second half, they stepped on us more. I think they turned their passiveness into aggression. And Bruce said after the game, there's a piece in The Athletic, he said that they put John Swift on Johnny Howson because Howson in the first half was dictating the game. He was allowed to play balls into those wide areas, and that's what we did for the first goal. It was him that played that pass into Ryan Giles, and to be honest, there was a spell within 10 minutes of the second half where West Brom turned the game into a mess, and Chris Wilder said that it was a bit of a basketball affair at that point, and I think that suited them, and it absolutely didn't suit us because it rattled us. It made us a little bit hasty in what we were doing and rash in our decision making, and yeah, it disrupted us. And ultimately, that's what lost us the 3 points in the end. And as you said, with Watmore and Akpom, I think we tired, but as I said, it's a bit of a tale of two halves, kind of expected first game of the season with a makeshift squad.
Yeah, absolutely. And Tom, with what Dana was saying there around the first half was good and the second half was quite poor and it was tiring as well. It was definitely a game that could have went either way, wasn't it? Because that first half was really good. The second half they had big chances, and we could be speaking today about a defeat.
Yeah, I mean, first half, as soon as Jones scored, I thought that game was only going to go one way. As Dana mentioned, we had a goal ruled out for offside. Unfortunately, I was right down the other end of the ground from the penalty appeal. So at first, everyone was appealing for it. I've seen it on the ITV show. Yeah, probably not. But yeah, Watmore missing that chance as well. It's a bit frustrating because, as Dan's just said there, he can just score phenomenal goals. The one from the edge of the box. You've got the Huddersfield one from a couple of years ago where he just beat everyone and pinged it in left-footed, and then 5 yards out misses the ball completely. So yeah, we had our chances first half, and then second half they scored, and then I remember they've had a couple more chances where I think Stefan's made a couple of good saves. Bravely getting in the way of one of them. I think it bounced off his chest, and then there's another one I watched on the ITV highlight show where I'm glad that it didn't get squared, because that would have been an easy kind of FIFA goal. But yeah, I didn't even see the guy at the point in real time. I just thought, right, whoever this is, I can't remember who it was, it is going to just try and curve it round Stefan, and it was a fairly poor shot. But yeah, I thought Stefan did well there to keep it at 1-1. But yeah, they did have their chances. I think we let them go into the game a little bit too much, and I think it's just showing the need for reinforcements.
I want to focus on the first goal, Tom, because I think it's a really good bit of play from us, and I want to have that real focus on the move, because it was a really well worked goal, wasn't it, for Boro?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think from Giles, a very, very good run to find the gap, and then great technique to reposition himself, reposition his body shape, and hit a perfectly weighted side-footed pass into Akpom. You've got McGree making an overlapping run to the outside, drawing a potential threat away from Giles as well. Akpom, I thought played really well in the first half yesterday. Didn't have too much to do in the second half, but yeah, in the first half, he didn't look like a player who knows he's off or anything like that. He looked like a player with a point to prove, and yeah, he gets the ball, keeps balance long enough to just hit a good left-footed pass across the goal, and it's a goal we've seen quite a lot from our team. You got Jones and Crooks at the far post, both waiting for the chance, and thankfully went straight to Jones, who got the tap in. So really well worked goal, and nice to see it happening from the left hand side this year instead of the right as well.
It's the chant's gonna change. It's gonna say Ryan Giles on the left hand side. Crooks' hair is fine.
Gets yellow carded all the time.
Yeah, gets yellow carded all the time. Yeah. But yeah, I think it's a really good goal, Tom. Like you were saying there, like the build up is really, really strong. The way Howson is able to get the interception, get Middlesbrough back playing again, find that left hand side. It was good to have that inverted run playing through. I would say that West Brom, you'd be kicking yourselves if you're a West Brom fan, because I thought first half, Danny, you were a little bit passive. But what I didn't really like about them yesterday was they always wanted to drop back. They always want to drop back into a shape. They always want to be a bit narrow, and it allowed us to have that space on the width, and that's our main strength. And appreciate you are trying to be compact when you want to defend and you want to make things difficult to get through. But when you have such good crossing ability on our wings, then sometimes you're going to get probably more chances than you think. And I thought it was a poor tactical tweak from Steve Bruce in the first half, but they got better in the second half, and they did equalise, Dana. What do you think it could have been prevented? I think all goals probably can be prevented, and we can dissect that now because we've got some graphics, haven't we? There's just a lot to it.
Do you want to lead with this? Because I know you have some pretty good thoughts on it.
Yeah, I
kind
can
of
lead.
echo.
We'll get the Watmore graphic up first, then, because when Boro do get the ball and from Ryan Giles on the left-hand side, the play through to Watmore. And when Watmore does, there's a frame just before it where he gets the ball and his body shape and everything is to run down the line. I think that's great because what Middlesbrough are trying to do is you can either get out for a throw-in and then you can restart your play again. But he's very fortunate and the West Brom defender here, he's able to Ajayi. I couldn't think of his name for a second. He allows him to go down the line, and then Ajayi does something really cool. And if you're watching us on YouTube, you'll be able to see it. But on our podcast providers, I'll try and describe it for you. So Ajayi sets his body up. He plants his right foot down, and he's trying to show Duncan Watmore down the line. And what he's able to do here is he's able to create a striking distance. So he's going to allow Duncan Watmore to come in on that bended curve run, and then he'll be able to hit him probably just between the box and the box and that little wide within the wide space. He's able to probably connect the challenge and then start the attack from there. What Duncan Watmore can actually do in this point, he's already halfway there, and he's already got a split second ahead of Ajayi here because of the way his body's positioned, the ball's on his outside of his foot, his left foot's planted, he can open his body up here, and then he can play it back to Giles, recycle the play, and then none of this attack actually even materializes, but he doesn't. He tries to get past the defender, and to be fair, he's fell into his trap, but if Duncan Watmore's a bit quicker, or you've got someone a bit more speed and get around him, then, you're going to be in a really good attacking position here, but he's not. Ajayi kind of takes him into a false sense of security, really, and allows him to try and get past him. He gets the tackle, and then I think this is where the break starts to happen for you, Dennis, isn't it?
Just on that, on the Watmore thing, I don't think it's a bad decision for him to go down the line there because it's a 1v1 versus Ajayi. You see it on the right-hand side. It's usually Jones against about 3 people. That's a 1v1 between Watmore and Ajayi there. So I think the decision isn't bad. It's the execution of it. He's never fully in control of the ball, and his dribbling is very messy, I think, is probably the best way to put it. And so I don't think it's necessarily a bad decision. I just think it's the bad execution of it. And in that moment, I think we said this off air before we came on, it's good defending. It's great defending from Ajayi to, position his body, like you said, to kind of invert that run from Watmore and to basically blindside him and to kind of lock him into that situation whereby Ajayi can then spring on him, and it's actually really good attacking play from Ajayi as well because, and if we move the graphic on to the second phase, when he distributes the ball, it's a fantastic ball up, and then unfortunately Lenihan misses that header. And then if you look at the space in the middle between McGree and it's Malumbi, McGree does get caught on his heels, and then that second contact when the aerial duel is unfortunately, he loses it, Lenihan. Malumbi's then racing down and pinches the ball beyond McGree, which then kind of sets this trigger of, it's kind of really unfortunate for Boro because they're just quicker than our players in that instance. You see, obviously, like I mentioned, the header is lost, the space in behind them because Lenihan's then trying to get that second contact. He's trying to press. He just gets caught, and then already you see Carlin Grant on that sort of half space is ready to go and ready to pounce. And when Malumbi does get to the ball ahead of McGree, you've got acres of space there in behind, and he's already on it. And I think you had a good point about this, Johnny, didn't you?
Yeah, look at Wallace on the right hand side. He's on the touchline. Look, Carlin Grant as well, and you look at the body shape of the Boro defenders as well. And what's interesting is head shape really, and it's like how they're positioning the head and appreciate where your head goes, your body tends to follow. And where all the Boro's players here are looking at the ball, they're not looking at the runs in behind, and it catches them cold a little bit. And don't get me wrong, this is a great ball through from Malumbi. Is it
Malumbi?
Malumbi, sorry. Yeah, Malumbi, and it's a great ball through. But by the time that they've got the ball here in this frame and just before the centre circle, Middlesbrough in deep danger already.
Chasing, aren't they?
They're already chasing. The high level chance is going to be coming, and Middlesbrough are probably most likely going to concede here from this moment, and they're able to get away. I want you probably to take it back, Dana, but obviously when you're looking at this anyway, it is probably a 3v3 on that next frame. So if you want to go on the next frame, it's probably a 3 or 4v3. But if you're looking at Dean Garner on that right hand side, is it Dean Garner? I can't really make out because of the graphic.
It's Colin Grant and then Jed Wallace, basically a 2v1 against Matt Ball.
No,
Matt Ball is never really going to recover that, is he?
On the one furthest away, I can't make it out. But
Matt
anyway,
Phillips.
Matt Phillips, I can't even barely say it. But anyway, my point is Matt Phillips is kind of irrelevant at this point. It's just the two are going forward in the 2v1 against Bowler. But I'll pass the mic back over to you, Dana. I know you've got.
What disappoints me actually is Bowler tries to show Wallace down the line, but he's not really close enough to shut off the space. So by the time that the cross is in the box, obviously you've got that Swift situation where there's just so much room from there to be able to not only shoot, but before the ball actually gets to him, to think about what he's going to do. And a player of John Swift's quality, when you give him that opportunity in that space, he's always going to score that. But like the way that the cross is unchallenged, and it's obviously Matt Bowler's caught there between Grant kind of on the outside of him, and then he's got Wallace to contend to. So he's never really going to get into that position where he's the favoured man in that situation. But I just feel like he could have maybe got a little bit tighter to Wallace and shut off that cross. But obviously when the ball is cut back to Swift, you're never really thinking he's going to miss that, such as his quality. So it's a really disappointing goal to concede. But we said it off air that it's more really effective counter-attacking play, isn't it? And sometimes you do have to hold your hand up and say, you know what, fair enough. A fantastic piece of defending from Ajayi, who I thought had a really good game, really good distribution from him as well. And then it was just incisive. Malumbi, key to it, his midfield player, nicking the ball ahead of McGree, playing that through ball into space for Wallace, and that cut back and the finish. It's just good play. Obviously still disappointing from Boro's point of view, but it is good play.
Yeah, and I think where Swift's able to slowly jog in, it kind of reminds me of Frank Lampard. Obviously they're both, it's both Chelsea graduates, aren't they? So, Swift is a Chelsea graduate, so it's clearly learned from him there to cut this nice slowly jog into the box, slow down your run, find a bit of space, and a lovely whip into the bottom corner, and absolutely no chance. And it's a good equaliser as well. And it's a shame that this could have been prevented in so many different ways and different phases. But West Brom won those battles to try, and the won the right to play in that moment and punish us. And I think it's a good goal from them. But I want to hear both of your thoughts on Duncan Watmore, because I know we spent a little bit of time on him there. We've all mentioned him in passing comments already in the pod, and he missed that big chance in the first half. He didn't really see himself. He's a bit hot and cold yesterday, and we found that a couple of games last season. And look, we're not going to. I don't think we should go into it too deep. But it's just, do you think he could potentially lose his place this season, or even worse, get sold by Chris Wilder? Because it just seemed off yesterday for Duncan Watmore. His pressing wasn't as good as it has been. And I appreciate everyone can have bad game. It was the first game of the season. There's a lot of caveats to it. But I kind of want to hear your thoughts on him, because do you think he could lose his place? Tom, do you want to go first?
Well, I don't think he was ever going to be the regular starting striker anyway. I think he's there at the moment because we don't have anyone else. I did think he was going to be an option this year, because to me, when I look at the way we've played since Wilder came in, he's probably, out of the four we had last season, the one who kind of fit it best in terms of the pressing, because he did seem to have the best engine out of the four strikers and being able to press and chase down teams playing out of defence. But every kind of issue I had with the way he played yesterday, I don't know, I saw an article this morning where Wilder said he was playing on one leg. And I'm thinking, is he actually carrying an injury then? Because it wasn't mentioned before the game. But now I'm thinking, like, if he is injured, that would make a lot of sense, because, as you say, his pressing wasn't off. Was off yesterday. He did seem slower than usual and off the pace. I'm disappointed with the chance he missed as well, obviously, but I don't put that down to the leg injury because he's done it before. I just put that down to Watmore doing Watmore things. But yeah, he did seem a lot slower yesterday. So if he is injured, fair play for playing through it and stuff. He did seem like he wasn't himself yesterday.
Yeah, okay. I mean, it makes it more frustrating now that when he tries to take on Ajayi now with one, if he's got one leg.
Yeah.
But Dana, how are you feeling about Duncan Watmore at the moment? Do you think, obviously, there could be the injury as well, but do you think that he's going to be the first choice striker this year if we were to bring more bodies in?
No, definitely not. And I think with Watmore, I think we can all appreciate the hard work that he puts in. You know, he's a willing runner and he is a willing presser usually. And he seems like a great guy by all accounts. And I don't want this by any means to be a bit of a pile-on Watmore. And I hope that it comes across that we're being as fair and balanced as we can here. But Watmore came into the team when Middlesbrough were in a funny era, to be honest, in terms of quality. It was a bit of a mixed bag, wasn't it? We had some good players, some players that were there kind of to get us through the season and to get us ticking over. And he was kind of one of those players, you know, he came like a ball out the blue. I always say that on this podcast, but like a ball out the blue, and he was our top scorer in that campaign when Woodgate was sacked, and then Warnock came over towards the end of the season. And I just feel like a natural progression of development in this squad has kind of made Watmore plummet down the quality and the standard a little bit. As Boro's quality and standard has risen, he's fallen a little bit below that. So whereas previously he was a part of the team and a part of the standard, now I feel like we just get into that next level. And unfortunately for Watmore, if we do want to progress, while we've spoken about top end championship players, I just don't think Watmore is that. He's a good option to bring off from the bench as an impact substitute, but as a starter, I just feel like he's the type of player to be replaced. And, you know, I know we're being linked with Matthew Hoppe of Mallorca. I think if we bring him in, then it might signal the end for Watmore, because everything that I've read about him is that he's a presser, he's a willing runner, he will harass defenders, a bit like what Watmore does, but obviously a little bit better. So yeah, I just feel like it's probably time to start phasing Watmore out. We just don't have the strikers to do so.
Yeah, I mean, well, I'll Hoppy, skip and jump to the next question then, because we'll. I'm here all week. Even my dog's like that, and my dog's behind me as well. And he enjoyed that.
He's wanting to get that cameo in.
I know, look at him.
No, he was yawning. He did not like that joke, Johnny.
No, he was laughing. You just didn't hear it. But based on the performance yesterday, then, was there any highlights to you in terms of what we need to do to progress next year? I think obviously the one is, you know, the strikers or the bodies to come in. But is there anything performance-wise where you want to highlight in terms of like progression? Is there anything that we can improve on? Dan, do you want to kick us off for that one?
Yeah. Well, firstly, I think it is good that we've obviously got an outlet on the left now. We were far too lopsided last season, and it caught us out towards the end of the campaign. So the fact that we've added Giles to the ranks is a brilliant move. Honestly, Mr. Perfect, I keep calling him, because I just think as far as signing goes, just spot on, literally spot on of what we wanted. I think it's more in terms of personnel, to be honest. Probably a left-sided defender. Excuse me. We need a left-sided defender. Bowler is makeshift at the moment. Ideally, you don't want him in that position. And then just improvement up front. You know, we need a poacher. We've got that in Marcus Force. We probably need somebody to play off him as well. Maybe a physical presence that can be involved in the build up, because the options that we had off the bench yesterday just weren't it really, were there? Coburn trying to get involved in the build up, just not his game, unfortunately. He's I think he's a fantastic, or has the potential to be a fantastic poacher, penalty box striker, but we just need improvements in terms of personnel, and I think we'll see the cards fall in our favour this season.
Tom?
Yeah, definitely agree with the left side centre back option there, because there were times in the game yesterday where I think Bowler was just a little bit too slow to play out the back. I mean, as Dennis said, he very much is stopgap. It's not his natural position. It is good the balance that he brings having a left footer there. Just like I said, there were times where if he was a couple of seconds quicker, he could have released Giles down the left-hand side again. Or, if he had a little bit better vision, there were balls inside to Riley McGree he could have played. But a lot of the time he was kind of turning, playing it safe and giving it back to Lenihan, which you don't mind so much. I think if you want someone safe to have on the ball, it's going to be Lenihan at the moment. But I think if you get someone a little bit more naturally left-sided centre-back, attack-minded as well, being able to play out from the back there, I think that's really going to help us. I also think, based on what Wilder said about who was on the bench in terms of the young lads, and naming Boyd Muntz out of the three of them, I don't think Boyd Muntz is going to be sticking around in the first team picture so much this season. I think he'll probably get sporadic appearances, but I do think we'll be looking at another replacement for Tav there, and I think you're going to need to look for someone with try and replicate that work rate because I'm not saying that I don't like McGree in that position or anything. I thought, especially the last 20-25 minutes, I thought McGree really came alive and showed more of what he could do. I think that's where he kind of like really clicked in the game, but he's not the same type of player as Tav. And I think there were times like the screenshot you were showing about the West Brom goal. I do think we missed Tav there, the energy and
I agree.
in closing that down and getting back and stuff. So I do think we need to replicate that in any signing we can make for the left side of midfield as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think although I really enjoyed Riley McGree, his performance yesterday, I think there's still obviously that legginess we need to improve. But I think that'll come as well. I think as he develops in that role, I think that tenaciousness and the ability to probably press harder will probably come into his game. Obviously, it's a different role for him, what he's been used to. But let's move on to the praise and place, because the praise and place is the place we give praise to a player, fan, chips and gravy, chips, curry, and more. But I want to know, guys, who gets your nomination this week? Tom, I'm going to stick with you. Who gets your nomination for the praise and place this week?
Well, I think the obvious one is Ryan Giles, Sky Sports man of the match, and you can see why, because I think if anything, we started to become more lopsided on the left yesterday than what we were doing last season. But yeah, delivery of crosses was pretty bang on most of the time. Pretty much created the chance for the first goal, and like I say, he should have had an assist to his name as well. But also Darragh Lenihan, I thought was a real kind of calming presence at the back yesterday. Always organising Dijksteel and Bowler. And I think, when we first spoke about him joining, I thought he was going to be right centre back. I couldn't see Dale Fry getting dropped for him. And then I was saying to my dad yesterday during the game, I'm like, actually, I can kind of see why. And I'm not against it now. Like, I think hopefully on the training ground, Dale Fry might be able to learn some of those characteristics from Darragh Lenihan. But, as we kind of upgrade in terms of level, as Dana was saying earlier, and as we're trying to aim towards the top of the table, I think Dale Fry might just be one of the casualties of that change. Still a lot of potential for the future. He's by no means finished or anything, but I think Darragh Lenihan's going to be like a mainstay in that position for the rest of the season, and you can see why from the way he played yesterday.
I think if one player is to move, it's Mark Bowler, and Fry comes in with Lenihan and Dijksteel. That'll be my three. But it's the praise and place. It's where we praise everything. Dana Moll, who are you going to go for?
I'll say Giles as well, but also I thought Dijksteel was good yesterday. And there's been a lot of chat, and I'm talking about the people in our Telegram chat here, about Dijksteel's position and him being upgraded. And I can see it definitely, because I think everybody in that team could probably be upgraded. But I just like Dijksteel. I think in terms of that recovery, you talk about Jones getting forward, Giles getting forward, the spacing behind. He's brilliant with that recovery. We've seen it ever since he came into this team. I remember when he made his appearance after injury against Reading during lockdown season, and he looked so calm and assured. And I think he'd been out for about 7 months at that time. Obviously, COVID definitely extended that time. But I just like Dijksteel, and I really do hope that he can stay in this team. But I don't know if this is a stupid point to make. The fact that he's been moved to 15 might suggest that he might be a sort of second choice. I don't know. But I also want to praise Tube Ratpom, because I think credit where credit is due. He was on yesterday, and he came off with an assist. He worked tirelessly hard until I think he couldn't give any more. The fact that he's been out in the cold, Wilder told him that he's not part of his plans, and then resumed training, I think the week before the season started, I think he was good. He was good, and I think he can offer us something for the time being. He's the mobile poacher. I looked at a few of his goals when he was at PAOK, and he is that kind of instinctive striker. We saw it when he followed in that rebound against Barnsley, and everyone was thinking, Jesus Christ, we've got a striker that will actually try to get that rebound in. I think credit to Chuba for that, because his performance was good.
Okay, Giles and Chuba for you. I've got two as well. One, obviously, I think Chuba was definitely in the praising place for me. For me, I thought he was really good at times yesterday. There was a good hold up play. I think if he gets fitter and fitter, then one, he's probably going to put himself in the shop window. Whether he wants to stay, who knows? But he's done himself a load of good there in terms of if he wants to make a move. There'll be people out there going, you know what? If he's available, we might be able to bring him in. But if not, then we don't get no offers. Then we've got a player there who could probably fit the system, and he probably does. He probably does fit the system a lot more than what people think. And yes, he hasn't played under Chris Wilder much, but I think the more and more I'll see of him, the better he'll probably get. And maybe it's a salary thing. Maybe obviously the player might want to move as well. But there is a good player in Chuba Akpom. It's just he needs that like warm, loving embrace and an arm around the shoulder, and maybe just a few games. And you never know, he might have something that might benefit us in the season. But who knows? To be honest, I'm not too sure. Do I think he'll be here by the end of August? I don't think he will be. But he's done. He did really, really well yesterday. And I think my second one goes to you, Dana. I think it was nice to see you on BBC Tees yesterday with Ado and Mado in the post-match breakdown. Obviously, doing that a lot more this season, but you're still sticking around here. So if you go anywhere, I know where Mado and Ado live, so I'm going to in the BBC Tees tower. Still got my ID in there, so I'll be signing in and getting them straight away to lynch you back. But well done. It was nice to see.
Thank you, Johnny.
Nice to see. But yeah, if you haven't listened to it, it's on BBC Sounds, so we can advertise that. So it's it's on post match, and you see little old Dana dissecting the game with Ado and Mado, which is lovely.
Up in the west, and I said to Ado, I'm terribly scared of heights, so I'll probably fall on the way down here. But then I just said that Zach Steffen will catch me, so it's fine.
Weird that you're going to announce your love for Zach Steffen there. Just fall into his arms. Like a damsel in distress. Right, let's move on to the post-match presser then, because Chris Wilder said that Middlesbrough are just a couple of players very, very, very close to getting signed off, and then a few players away to getting completely signed completely. So we are in the market for about 5 players. He even said, and I quote, "It's just a case with a couple of players not getting signed off by us or parent clubs in time for a day. We're down the line with a couple." So very, very close. And then also he said around about Josh Coburn can go out on loan. He said we've got really high hopes for Josh, but we possibly feel that his progression and his development, that he may need to go out on loan and play regular football. We'll come on the transfers in a second, because we've got quite a few in terms of that in our pod questions. But Josh Coburn, right decision to take him out, to take him out the squad and score. Go on, Joshy. Go out on loan and see how you can progress your game from there. Dana, do you think it's the right decision?
Joshy.
Well, I have another name for it, but I'm aware that kids watch us at times, so I can't really say.
We've heard this one before,
I can't say it much longer. I'm keeping it PG for that one. So
I like Joshy though. Yeah, I think it probably is, because Wilder does tend to like 5 strikers, and I feel like for his development, as Wilder said, it probably would be best for him to go out. I asked the EFL encyclopedia that is Gab Sutton, our good friend Gab Sutton, and he said that Forest Green Rovers and Port Vale will probably suit somebody like Josh Coburn, and probably are in the market for somebody like him. So yeah, it'd be good to see him out on loan. Whoever picks him up is getting a really good finisher, and hopefully they can develop other parts of his game as well. So I think ideally it is a good decision. Came on yesterday, and obviously, as I said, in the build-up, he's not quite there, is he? But he's definitely got potential as Coburn, so hopefully he can go out and thrive.
Tom, are you in agreement?
Yeah, I think if we were able to loan him out somewhere where he's going to be playing the majority of the games in the season as one of the main strikers, and also in a system where it's going to be similar to ours, where he's going to get the similar sorts of chances and stuff like that, it's only a good thing, because realistically he's not going to be doing that here. He's not going to be playing the majority of the games, and he's probably only going to get kind of sporadic appearances. So I think if we were to give him that game time in a similar system, similar chances, just get him ready for it. Hopefully, be able to come back next year and hit the ground running.
Yeah, and I'm in agreement with all two E's as well, because all two E's. All three. I was going to say all three.
Who's the third person?
All three. Well,
Max has just made the same suggestion.
My dog, yeah. My dog's he's very knowledgeable about football, you see. But yeah, I would say, yeah, go on loan. I think yesterday it kind of proved to me that, yeah, Joshy, you're not ready for a big championship push this year. Go out on loan, enjoy some game time, and hopefully come back a completely different player. And I think he's got the ability to do so. We'll soon see next season. But let's move on to podcast questions, because it's each week you get the chance to ask us a question for us to answer on the podcast, whether that be via Twitter at the Boro_breakdown, email at theboroBreakdown@hotmail.com, or join our Telegram chat with like over 250 Boro fans talking everything about Boro, and not just Boro, it's just everything, including the wobbly goblin, all sorts. It's
Paddy
absolute
Menez,
carnage.
ding dong.
Yeah,
every week.
It's just carnage in that group chat, to be honest. I've never seen something so carnage, but it is a lot of fun. It is. There's never a dull day in that chat, I must admit. I've always got a smile on my face when I open that up. But the first question, it's from Jason. He says, "Why has Izzy stopped running at defenders?" Who wants to take this one? Dana, Tom?
I can take it.
Go on, Dana.
Yeah, I think he's just adapting his game, because when he came in, he was as much as of a surprise to us as he was for other championship fullbacks. And I think he's just trying to adapt. Sometimes, and as I alluded to earlier, he'll have the left back on him, then the left-sided centre half, and then the left-sided centre midfielder, and it just shuts off the space. So I think on the subject of what you said earlier, Johnny, recycling possession, I just think it's a clever move. He's trying to adapt his game. It's not necessarily a bad thing, and we did pick up on it. I think a lot of Boro fans picked up on it last season, so it's probably worth keeping an eye on further. But yeah, I just think it's a case of him trying different ways to unlock the door, which, as I said, isn't necessarily a bad thing. We probably do want to see more of Jones at full pelt, because it's exciting, isn't it? When he gets the bags of tricks out, when he leaves Lee Wallace on the floor after nutmegging him, it's really good. But I think he's just trying to be clever about it, isn't he? He's trying to think of different ways to get through.
Yeah, the old 1-2 with Crooks, gets him on his bike, get around him. So there is stuff like that he's obviously adding to his game more and more. But yeah, I agree with you, Dana. Next question is from the little fella on Twitter. Not Janino, unfortunately, but it would have been awesome if it was. He says, "Think McGree is going to be a big player for us, but he's not Tav." We've alluded to this a little bit earlier, but how important is it that we find a new engine? Tom, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, very important. I think we saw it in the in the breakdown of the goal, as we mentioned earlier. Tav probably would have made up that extra couple of yards to be able to close down Malumbi before he's even played that able to play the pass. And as we say, Wilder's said that Boyd Muntz is one of the young ones who was made the bench, who probably wouldn't in another scenario. So I think it's obvious that we are looking for someone else in that position. It's going to be hard to replicate Tav's work rate, and probably expensive to replace him if we can find that. But we do need someone else there who offers something different to McGree and more similar to what Tav offered us. So definitely somewhere we need to address before end of transfer window.
Okay, next question. We'll stick with you, Tom, as well. It's from Mike Brown. It says, Coburn looks slow. Should we pair him with Watmore for more energy? From given what we've been saying, I might not be the case.
No, I mean, we know he's likely to go out on loan, don't we? So I don't think it's something we need to worry about. I think last season those two did work quite well together when they came on. It was often off the bench, but Watmore's apparently only got one leg at the moment, so that probably won't work well right now. I think the issue was yesterday that him and Force were fairly similar in terms of kind of being poachers and stuff. But what I did like from Coburn yesterday, there was a chance where He had the ball, close control, edge of the box, and I think he had a couple of defenders on him. It might have just been one, but he managed to hold that defender off, outmuscle him, and try to get a shot off. I think it did just get blocked in the end, but he showed good strength, good footwork to get into that position. And with a full season of football under his belt from a loan move, hopefully we'll be seeing that a lot more next season.
Okay, then. Next question. It's from Danny Beardmore, and he says, "Do we need competition for all three midfield positions?" Dana, what was one?
I think we need competition for at least two of those three. With Howson, he didn't really miss many games last season. I remember he had COVID around Boxing Day, because I literally said, didn't I? I was like, Howson's coughing, he's got COVID, and then he got COVID. Dr. Dana. But
hang on. Have you got the mug?
The malt curse?
The malt curse mug. There you go. The malt curse mug. There you go. Malt curse, the official curse of Middlesbrough Football Club. Trademark.
Yeah. Shout out to Tom from We Are Teesside for that. Go and check them out. They are fab. But yeah, I think for Howson's position, obviously Paddy McNair is there, and thankfully for Paddy, he is versatile enough to be able to probably cover that position. We haven't yet seen him too much. I think he played a couple of pre-season games and then the Mansfield game as well in the cup last season in that number 6. But I think number 6 is a position where we probably need somebody to come in to eventually replace Howson. So I suppose to answer the question, it would help, wouldn't it? But then particularly those two more advanced number 8 positions, we definitely need competition there, with Piero leaving and then Tav leaving as well. Boy Munce, as Tom said, probably leaning more towards the young player sporadic appearance category. I think we need left-sided and right-sided, kind of either or. For I'm a bit ambivalent to the number 6, to be honest.
Okay. Just thinking, Anthony Dijksteel 1 and 5 equals 6. Is he going to be the throw? playing with numbers, absolutely love it. Final question of the day, then it's from Mike, and he says, bearing in mind Chris Wilder confirmed he still wants a left centre back who makes up our first choice back three. Who makes up our back three when everyone is available? And Ty from the Telegram chat asks a similar question as well, in how important is the left centre back role for us? So who makes up our back three when everyone is fit and we bring someone in? So Tom Green, who do you think is our best three?
So going Linehan in the middle of the three. I prefer Dijksteel on the right hand side over McNair, but I do think it's going to be McNair when everyone's fit, purely because of what he offers going forwards. I think we know from the Chris Wilder system that that centre back getting forwards is an important part of it. And I thought last year Dijksteel worked really well with Crooks and Jones, and defensively I do like him more than McNair in that position. But I do think McNair is more attack focused, so it probably will be him. And on the left side, it'll probably be Jacob Greaves when we sign him from Hull City.
Nice answer.
Lovely answer. Lovely answer. I'm all for that. Dana, do you want to answer as well? As well.
Yeah, it's tough because I think last season Dale Fry was our best defender in terms of raw defensive attributes, the tackling, the intercepting, the reading the game. I thought he was our best defender. But then Linehan comes into the equation, also a fantastic defender. It's a really tough one. I think right now, I'm not 100% sold on McNair being on the left, but for now, I'll put him on the left, McNair on the right. And you know what? I'd keep it the same as last season. I'd play Dale Fry in the middle. I think Linehan, good. And I do like Linehan. He's solid. I just think don't write Dale Fry off. That's what I'll just park that there. Don't write Dale Fry off.
Don't write Dale Fry off. Write him off. Next podcast.
That'll probably happen.
Well, there is a defender we haven't mentioned, and we haven't done a video on him just yet. But he did come in last week, and it's Tommy Smith. He was with us all pre-season. He did sign a 1-year deal with the club. And if you haven't seen our videos on the lowdowns, we've just done one with Marcus Force as well, which me and Dana done on our YouTube channel, and go and give it a watch. But Tommy Smith, then, given we hadn't seen much of him, we asked Ben from the YYY files to give us some insight on Boro's new versatile defender.
Hey up guys, Ben here from Stoke Podcast, the YYY Files. So, how he plays, he is without a doubt a right wing back as opposed to a right back. So he certainly prefers playing on the outside of a back five rather than the back four, which I think suits you guys anyway, particularly with the signings you've made this summer and the players you had already. His strengths definitely going forward. I would say that at Stoke there were times where he had among the best chance creation statistics in the team, which when we had players like Mario Vrancic, Nick Powell, Josh Tyman on the other side, that they're good numbers for a right back at Stoke anyway. In defence, I'd say that he's good at interceptions, you know, when it's a high line and when the team's pushed up, he's good at nicking the ball and then restarting on a counter-attack. That's what enabled us a few times at the start of last season. I'd say his weaknesses, though, are when Stoke are backs to the wall. He didn't do particularly well when he was sort of running towards his own box. He's getting on, his pace wasn't particularly there. Neither was he particularly good in the tackle either with the ball at the opponent's feet. He, as I say, more of an intercepting sort of character. So I think for you guys, he would suit you, particularly with players like Isaiah Jones performing for you last season. I'd say he's nowhere near as good as him, of course, but I would say that as a reserve option, I think he suits you guys. Now that I've seen he's coming to you, it sort of makes sense considering that he was on a fair wage at Stoke, and I don't think he'd have dropped down to, a significantly less wage. So, coming to you guys, probably the right move for all parties. You guys get a very good, a very decent backup right wing back who, he's not going to be captain for you guys, but he is a leader, and you're going to be one of the better sides in the league anyway. You're not going to have many backs to the wall performances, I'm sure. And for him, he gets to play at a club that's going to pay his wages and potentially go up this season. And on that, best luck to you guys for the season ahead. Looks like it's going to be much more exciting for you than it is for us anyway.
Very optimistic from Ben there, wasn't it? They did get beat, of course, yesterday, Stoke City, but you never know with Stoke. I don't think you get promoted with Aidan Flint at centre half, unfortunately. But there was an outgoing as well this week, Marcus Tavernier. We did speak about it on the pod last week, but there was one Marcus in and one Marcus out with Tavernier going to Bournemouth in a deal worth £12 million plus add-ons. And to quote Tom from a podcast from a few episodes ago, he's Tavern here, Tavern there, and now he's Tavern gone. How he is feeling about the move for Tav then? Because it's such a shame, I think, to lose a good player. But Boro got some good fees in the summer. But Tom, how are you feeling about the move for Tav?
I'm gutted about it. I do think it's probably a little bit short-sighted from him and his advisors. He going to a club in Bournemouth where, Scott Parker, I think we are all aware he's not a great manager anyway. I think if you're looking at player development between him and Chris Wilder, you'd probably stay at Boro and play for Chris Wilder. Realistically, is Scott Parker going to last the whole season? Probably not. So then you're in a position where you're in a Bournemouth squad full of midfielders, probably not going to end up playing in your favourite position. And then Bournemouth, are they probably going to go down? Probably one of the favourites for it as well. So, you Premier League player for a season, hopefully you make your mark in that time and get picked up by someone else. Otherwise, you're back in the Championship. I think at the moment, Boro are laying the foundations for something a lot stronger than what Bournemouth have. But I can also understand it from Tav's point of view as well. Obviously, you got the lure of playing for the Premier League, but I would think over the last couple of seasons, Tav's probably been told, just give it another year and we'll be there a couple of times. And how many times do you have to hear that before you're like, right, no, I'm off. So, yeah, got to lose him, especially to Bournemouth, because, like I say, he could probably go somewhere better and progress his career a bit more. But good luck to him there.
Dana? I know obviously the Malt Curse mug is sponsored by Marcus Tavernier, but
here it is. Bring it in, Marcus Tavernier fan club. Should have known, shouldn't I? Should have known. Yeah, I'm sick as a pig, to be honest, because of that. But also I'm really disappointed because losing such a key player and somebody that Chris Wilder said one of our best on the eve of the season is really, really disappointing. And I mean, I don't even care about the fee anymore. When it came out and it was 10, I think it was 12 million, wasn't it? I was thinking, yeah, it's not that upfront. It's because usually the reported fees are actually less upfront than it came out. It was 10 million rising to 12.5 million. It's really disappointing because, Tav's value to this team is immense. And you do see clubs adding value onto players because of their value to the team. So I feel like from an outsider's perspective, from a fan's perspective looking in, obviously I'm not to know the ins and outs and the run-ins of the club and what they did. We have been told that they did everything they could to keep him. That fee seems on the lower side, but taking that out of the equation, just really disappointed to lose such a key player, one of our best, so close to the season starting.
Do you think that we've commanded a decent fee then, Tom? And Dana thinks it's a bit low. Do you think Boro could have potentially got more?
Yeah, I agree with Dana. I think it is on the low side, and I think he is worth more to us than 12 mil. I think, as Dana said, it's not all going to be up front. I think there is a practice in football, if anyone's read or listened to the Price of Football book, where you can secure a loan against the the payments on a transfer, the installments, so you can get it all up front and go on to strengthen from that way. So I wouldn't be surprised if we were able to do that with the fee for Tav, but I don't think 12 mil is a reflection of what he's worth to the team. And I'm also a little bit annoyed accepting it so close to the start of the season where we're getting done over by Premier League teams saying you can have X player as soon as we bring a replacement in, but we can't do the same for Tav. I think that's a bit of a bad decision from the club, to be honest.
It's a shame. Yep, I agree. Yeah, it's a good point. It is a shame for Boro to be in this position. The move itself is, I think, for Tav, I agree with Perry's. I think he could have probably went to more of an established Premier League side who would have probably helped him develop for more long term, but he's went to Bournemouth now. He's playing Premier League football. I'm assuming he's got a substantial pay rise. Your career in football is very short, so of course you've got to try and make a living out of it as much as you possibly can. And look, I do wish him all the best. Tav, I think he's going to be really, really good in the Premier League. He should adapt to it very, very well. But whether he does for Bournemouth, I think I'd be intrigued to see and whether he plays them. It looks like he's going to play on that left wing back role, which, again, I think he's more of a central player. But it's difficult for us. But could Boro have done more? They've said that they try to offer him, a deal. He didn't go up to the club and say he wanted to leave. I'm pretty sure we've got a fee. And I think if a Premier League team comes in for you, you're going to be like, well, okay, yeah, let's go for it from there. It's a shame, but we've got a good replacement in Riley McGree. Do you think, Dana, we're going to lack a lot of energy there? I know you said it a little bit earlier, but is it, from the question as well, that engine is probably that priority now to try and replace that Tav type player?
Yeah, and I think time will tell on Riley McGree whether he can, because, I mean, energy is kind of determined by time, isn't it? And towards the end of the season, when a lot of our team were flagging, Tav was the one that was still going, and I think it went hand in hand with his performances growing as well. And yeah, time will tell. We'll see, but I think McGree can definitely replace parts of Tav's game, but whether or not I don't think he's the full package of what Tav was. He probably is going to get you more goal contributions, but yeah, that energy. Some people already said it after the game yesterday. We were running out of steam. We looked a bit leggy. Fitness was the reason we didn't win it. That's crucial. That's really important, especially in a Chris Wilder team when the press is aggressive and up and down. It's time will tell with McGree, but yeah, we definitely need to replace that engine, that Duracell battery, should we say?
I'm still ready to give my heart and soul to Riley McGree. I still think he is a delight to watch. There was moments in the game
he is very
yesterday.
good to watch.
I love watching him. He's got talent in abundance. It's just pairing the additional battery inside, just inside the third battery into his back, and then we're good to go. But final question before we move on to QPRs. Tav working under Chris Parker there, under Scott Parker. Good move for him to work under Scott Parker. Yes or no? Both of you shaking your heads. No.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Absolutely
Okay,
not. Tom had a good point though. Like the development, you can't tell me that Scott Parker is going to develop Tav any more than Chris Wilder would in the division below. I think it's a really bad move. I've seen so many of their fans say they don't need a midfielder. They've got midfielders. They need a centre half. They're probably going to whack him out wide. And if he's playing left wing back in the Premier League, he's going to regress. He's not going to progress. And I tell you what, the grass isn't always greener, and it certainly is not greener in Bournemouth. So good luck to him. I don't think it's a good move. We'll see, but I feel like it's a really bad move for Tav.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think he's kind of going backwards in terms of like, Warnock would play him in every other position, Woodgate would play him in every other position. And now he's finally nailed down a position under Chris Wilder where he was developing extremely well. He was an absolutely vital part of the system. And I've saw a list of the amount of centre midfielders that Bournemouth have. I think they have about 7 or 8 of them. And I was like, where is he even going to fit in that system? He probably will go back to just playing whatever position he's needed in.
A shame. An absolute crying shame. But oh well, £12 million in the bank, and we'll look to invest that with a couple of new signings in the next couple of days, and we'll hopefully get the few more that Chris Wilder is after. But let's look ahead to Saturday now, where Boro travel to the King Prince Foundation Stadium to play QPR and to get a flavour of the R's summer. I'm going to leave you in the warm, soothing sounds of OJ from Up the R's podcast to give us a bit more insight.
Hi guys. Yeah, so pre-season, not too bad. We kind of had a lot of new faces to get into the team. Kind of got to see where people are at, and nurture some of the people that were out injured for the rest of last season to kind of get back to full fitness. So yeah, the first real test was obviously when we played Palace, and unfortunately we did crumble, but as to be expected, they a good Premier League side. On to yesterday. It was a bit of a lacklustre performance, to be honest. I think defensively we looked pretty solid. The goal we conceded was a screamer from about 25 yards out. Other than that, defensively, I thought we were pretty good. We closed down Batman well. We didn't give them much time. Midfield lacked any real creativity with the likes of Field, Dazelle, and Johansson in there. You've not got an Eze in there. You've not got someone that's going to ping a ball out of nowhere. Flick some skills and get into areas, so that was a bit of a lack for us. And up front we were very, very bare. Lyndon Dykes has been pretty poor in the Championship for us, and I do see that continuing, especially if he's not going to get the service. Shadipo, someone that played really well for us yesterday. Ilishche had a quiet one, but obviously a few injuries. Hopefully the players coming back will sort that out. Definitely players to watch out for this season. Sinclair Armstrong. He's someone that I really think can go all the way. He's a 19-year-old striker, big lump, quick, agile, got a lot of strength about him as well. So he's someone that definitely look out for this season. Obviously, the likes of Chrissy Willock and Sanfield as well. Ilias Chair, we've got a few good players in there. It's just hopefully being able to utilise them to the best we can. So the prediction on to Boro, I think Boro for me go up automatically this season. I think on paper, their team is arguably the best in the league. I think we talk about likes of Burnley and Sheffield United, but for me, Boro just have everything in abundance. Obviously, the money from Jed Spencer's helped with that, but for me, Boro win automatic promotion, second or first, not sure yet. But for the game against you guys, I think unfortunately I'd love to say that we think we're going to win, but I just can't see it. I think unless we get any signings in, I think we might suffer a big defeat. 2-3-0 wouldn't surprise me, because yesterday we looked nowhere near like a team that could score goals. I think Boro automatics. I think we're looking at maybe 13th, 14th a push. I think we're lacking a lot this season.
Thanks for that, OJ. It seems like the C's at the QPR at the QPR this season aren't very good, to be honest. I think they're looking like they could be struggling. But how we feel about this game, guys, because appreciate it's still very early in the season. Results can be here, there, and everywhere. But what are your predictions going into it? Tom, do you want to go first?
I'm going to go 2-1. Just from what OJ was saying there, it doesn't sound like QPR have kind of hit their strides, hit the ground running from the start of pre-season. They're going to struggle to score goals, apparently, which means they're absolutely going to score against us. To be honest, I don't ever like us playing at QPR's ground anyway, because I don't have many memories where we've kept a clean sheet there. I think a lot of the games end up being on TV, and even if we win, QPR have scored. So I think 2-1 Boro next week.
2-1 Boro. You got a goal scorer in mind, Tom? No?
No, we haven't signed him yet.
Okay, fair enough. New goal scorer anytime.
TBD.
Jacob Graves off corner.
Dana, what is your prediction?
You know what? I'm gonna say the same. And annual mention for Junior Hoylett sliding into the camera pit at Loftus Road. I hope that happens again to someone. That'd just be funny, even though it's not on the telly, so it won't. But yeah, 2-1. I agree with Tom. I don't really like us playing there. We do always seem to concede. It always is a really tough game. I do expect them to score. So yeah, 2-1 for me. I don't know. I think Akpom will score for us because he did against QPR in his debut, didn't he? So yeah, Akpom, redemption arc, goals on.
Okay. I want to go with 2-0 to the Boro. I think our wingers will hopefully provide us enough creativity and pin them back. I think their wing back is probably their weak position at the moment, and hopefully we can try and get the most out of that, and hopefully get the W. And yeah, who knows? Churakpon might score. But if not, then we'll soon see. So I'm sure someone will hit the back of the net at some point. But that's it, guys. Thank you very much for joining me as always, and to the listeners and viewers, thank you very much for listening and watching us. And if you haven't already, subscribe to our YouTube and our podcast provider, and also if you haven't already, donate to our Motor Neurone Disease Association charity fundraiser this year as well. We're trying to raise £3,000. So if you can help us hit that target, then that would be absolutely amazing as well. But for now, Boro build the first block of the season against QPR, but it's a long road ahead. This is the Boro Breakdown podcast, and that was like a Boro Match Day chatter in a pod. Up the Boro Breakdown.